Franz J Marty, an investigative journalist based in Afghanistan, is joining us. Thank you for talking to me. Um, you've been working in Afghanistan since many years now and reporting on terrorism and violent extremism. That has been your forte. You have interviewed active insurgents, you've reported from hostile provinces in Afghanistan. So just tell me, in the last couple of days, what we have seen in Afghanistan is an unprecedented turn of events. As a reporter reporting on the ground, please tell me what led to the situation where the Afghan president had to flee, the US president had to withdraw troops. What really led to this?
That's a difficult question because I was myself, as I dare to say, everyone like surprised by the speed that it happened, that it could happen, that the Taliban take over like provinces was expected, but not all, not in that tempo, and not overrunning Kabul or like overrunning Kabul, like marching into Kabul like that without much resistance. In fact, just between the 9th and the 12th of August, so just a few days ago, I was in the mountains of Nuristan and thought in Taliban areas and thought all is fine. And I just made it back to Kabul while more or less the provinces that I crossed were collapsing behind me. So this came unexpected. I guess a major factor was like a psychological factor. If you look at it, the United States or NATO allies, they haven't done much more, like let's say 6 months ago or a year ago. Foreign troops have been confined to bases since long. But once Biden announced that in any event, foreign forces will withdraw, this led to some feeling among Afghan forces, among Afghan civilians, that the Taliban will take over. And once the Taliban managed to take over more territory and eventually cities, this then accelerated itself.
So, as we speak, nationals from many countries are trying to get back to their respective countries. Many Indians are also stranded in Afghanistan and they want to get back to India. Now, Taliban has been saying that they will not harm anyone. Can you really take the Taliban at face value?
Well, you can take no one at face value, and certainly not the Taliban. But what has to be mentioned is, if we look at the past days, at past weeks, at the past month, the Taliban have indeed shown clemency to people that surrendered, even after phase two, most that is. I'm not saying that there haven't been revenge killing. There have been like documented cases, for example, in Spin Boldak at the southern border in Kandahar, or in Malistan in central Ghazni province. Or commandos who surrendered were shot like in Davlatabad in Faryab only like 1-2 months ago. So it happened, but it was the exception. Did the Taliban do this out of the goodness of their heart? Unlikely. It was, as it seems, an orchestrated campaign. They knew that showing clemency would help them to take over the country, which it also did. Otherwise, it couldn't have so far taken all these provinces, all these cities. What the question now is, will they continue to do that?
I get that. I mean, what about the Kabul airbase? We hear that the US has completely taken control over the airbase, and at the moment, it seems that the US is the deciding force there, and they are trying to give more importance to evacuating their nationals. What is the situation with evacuation? How are the evacuations taking place, and who is in real control of the Kabul airbase? Is it the Taliban or is it the US?
It's complicated. So like the US has taken over, US and other coalition forces have taken over security of parts of the airport, but not everywhere. And outside the airport, Taliban have taken up position. So it's kind of, to get to the airport, one has to cross Taliban checkpoints. And then part of the airport was under Afghan government control, but there it was kind of abandoned. Although some Afghan forces are still like helping the US. with like securing the airport. And so then it really depends what you were talking about. And because some parts were then not guarded anymore, it led to these chaotic scenes that people breached parts of the airport, ended up on the runway, climbing on planes, clinging to planes even while they were taking off. I mean, bottom line is evacuation hasn't been planned well, and it was hastily put together. People were surprised by the breach of the airport, and that's why the evacuation is as chaotic as the footage shows.
Taliban has time and again said that they will not harm anyone and that they will respect the rights of women. We saw the news of Taliban destroying a statue of a Shia leader from the 90s civil war. And Taliban apparently have also killed some protesters in Jalalabad who were apparently carrying the Afghan flag. We don't know what is true and what is the ground situation. We also saw the news report on Taliban attacking women and children in Kabul airport despite their peace promise. This apparently happened in the last 2 days. We are not sure about that, but we saw news reports on this. So in the days to come, what kind of a Taliban are we really going to see? A moderate one or a hot-headed extremist one?
I mean, I guess the likelihood to call them like hot-headed extremists. I mean, there are certainly extremists. There's like no question about that. They also never have hidden that. I mean, there are fundamentalist Islamists. That's what they believe in, and that's what they will continue to do. And the Taliban have quite severely decided that to moderate their fighters to some extent is in their interest. It will give them legitimacy. It will give them support. So I guess they will continue to restrict their fighters. That we see like scenes like in Jalalabad, where people unexpectedly came out with the Afghan national flag and Taliban opened fire, or that also in other parts we will see like Taliban harassing civilians, has to be expected. In this regard, I would add, if the past weeks can be seen as a guideline, such incidents are rather the exception than the norm, which is a good sign for the Afghan population.
Franz, where is India really in the Afghan scheme of things? Now, in the Doha meet, India initially didn't even have a seat and had to negotiate for a seat at the table. In the Troika Plus meet, India was not invited. India has spent around $3 billion in Afghanistan. Of course, China has spent more than that, way more than that. And now India doesn't really seem like a major player there. Where do you think India really stands in terms of A, how Afghan people view India, B, how the Taliban views India, and C, how does the US, China, Russia, Pakistan, how do they view India's role in Afghanistan now?
I would first of all like emphasize most of the things that happen in Afghanistan are like local or like determined by Afghans. So no matter what India or any other country does, there are like limitations to what kind of impact it will have. And often in like analysis, this gets like disregarded and the influence of whatever international player get overstated. That being said, India among Afghans has certainly a good reputation. A lot of Afghans listen to Indian music. They watch Indian movies all the time. They like exactly. They like the Indian culture. So that there is, as most Afghans I know, they see India as a friend. And they also appreciate the large investments that India did during like especially the last 20 years. India has been one of the biggest donors of the international community, and that has certainly like given India a lot of goodwill. With the Taliban, it's hard to say. The Taliban, their official statement is that they want to have good relations with everyone, that they are not, they don't want to be the enemy of anyone. However, as I mentioned before, there's no question the Taliban are Islamist fundamentalists. So that they're open about that. So there is, of course, like a religious friction that they will rather be closer to Muslim country that they can be like to India. On the other hand, the Taliban also know that they need foreign assistance if they want to rebuild the country. So they will likely try to keep Indian investment in Afghanistan, to have trade with India. To what extent they would then have to make like decisions, choose partners, and maybe choose one partner over the other on the international scene. This is really speculative at this moment.
Yeah. Now, you've covered terrorism extensively in Afghanistan. Tell me, an unstable Afghanistan under a Taliban regime, is it a larger threat to the US or to India?
At the moment, there's overwhelming evidence I have collected myself. So this doesn't come from like biased sources. I have this vetted with several sources. There is no question that there are non-Afghan jihadists right now present in Afghanistan. And at least some of them have also left little doubt or even explicitly said that they intend to bring jihad to other countries, be it their home countries or like internationally. The Taliban are denying that these people exist. And this is a problem. I don't know exactly why the Taliban are doing this. For me, it seems to be like see no evil attitude. So they know if they would acknowledge the presence of transnational terrorists, it will cause them serious issues on the international scene. So they think by denying it, they can solve it. But these people are around and they will try to do something.
What do you think is the biggest challenge going forward for Afghanistan as a nation that finally wants peace and freedom? What is the challenge?
I'm not sure. The problem is a little bit like, do Afghans really want peace? Yes, everyone says this, but the problem is a little bit, most Afghans or all Afghans that I know, they say, I want peace, but like peace the way I envision it. And that one of the problems that also the Taliban will now face, in my opinion, is that different groups want to rule the whole of Afghanistan and impose their view on the whole of the country without having the capacity to do so. So yeah, the Taliban have support, but as the protests today in Jalalabad, Khost, and Asadabad showed, not everyone agrees with what the Taliban want.
Yeah. Last question regarding the evacuations. What is the sense that you're getting from the ground? How long do you think this is going to pan out?
The problem is really, as I said, the evacuation is chaotic. So it is not clear how many they will fly out. I mean, the international staff that will be evacuated, the ones that want to leave, they have already left or will be leaving soon. And then is a little bit the question how many of the Afghan co-workers that like embassies or NGOs had will be evacuated in this like extraordinary way. Another possibility is that at some point it will like normalize and there will be again regular commercial flights, and then it's kind of like people can go privately arrange this without a huge evacuation program on the ground. I wonder how long this situation can last with the Americans holding the airport in a Taliban-controlled city, which, if you think about it, is pretty much insane, with the Taliban being outside the gate of the airport and few meters inside the airport like American soldiers. So far, this kind of have worked, I believe, because the Taliban didn't want to risk an escalation. And the United States and other coalition forces, they just want to get their people out. So this kind of standoff has lasted. But I don't think it can last indefinitely, because at some point Taliban would come under pressure, because it would be said, well, We still have like American occupiers at the airport. Why aren't you doing something about them? So during the next few days, it will probably continue, but at some point, I guess there will be a change in this situation.
Thanks a lot, Franz. Thanks a lot for talking to me.